Weirdo acting teachers are just part of the industry. You have to put up with it to learn. Really? And we believe that? Okay, I'm going to tell you where I stand on this one. I never did a conservatory thing. I started at 60 in a spare bedroom. No guru I handed my whole identity over to. No famous mentor until recently, anyway. I took a class or two along the way, and I'll get to one of them in a minute. But mostly, I built a working career out of a toolbox I put together myself from a lot of places. So when I look at the guru class world, I'm looking at it from the outside. And from the outside, you can see the machine. And here's what actually worries me. It's not the teacher who makes somebody feel small, although I do hate that. It's how many actors walk out of a room like that thinking, maybe that guy was right about me. Maybe I just need to work harder. Maybe the weird means it's working. That belief costs actors money, time, and something even harder to get back than either. So let's take it apart. Reputation in the acting class world is almost never built the way you think it is. It goes something like this. This teacher has a following. Students rave. One of them booked the series regular, so the method must work, right? Yeah, well, not so fast, because sometimes a teacher gets hot because they happen to be in the room when somebody was on their way up anyway. Sometimes the methods are so strange that people just assume strange must mean deep. Oddness reads as depth. A cult following reads as proof. And neither one is teaching. Now, don't get me wrong. Real reputations exist. Some teachers are genuinely great, and the reputation is earned. But you've got to ask what the buzz is actually measuring. A good publicist, a big personality, one lucky alumni placement, that builds a reputation that has nothing to do with whether you walk out of that room a better actor. Now, let me give you a real one, and this is recent. I signed up for a class my agent recommended. Big name studio, sterling reputation, the kind of place you feel lucky to get into. 90-minute class. And the first 60 minutes, journaling, making weird sounds, sitting quietly, meditating to center ourselves. Then everybody gets a turn to share how their week went. 30 minutes. 30 minutes out of 90 actually doing the work, the acting. Now, look, I clocked that pretty quick, but the reputation was huge. My agent had sent me there, and I'd already prepaid the whole 4-class block. No refunds. So I wrote it out. I figured maybe it'd click by the end. It didn't. That's the trap. The reputation was real. The teaching was 30 minutes. And if reputation is the only thing you're counting on, you're not choosing a teacher. You're choosing a brand, which matters a whole lot once you're actually inside the room. Discomfort in a class and growth in a class are not the same thing. And the gap between them is where actors get fleeced. It gets sold like this. If you're not suffering, you're not serious. Demand equals development. I want to be careful here because there is a true thing buried in this. Good training should be uncomfortable sometimes. Getting better means doing stuff you can't do yet. Being bad at it in front of people and having somebody tell you the truth about your work, well, that stings. It's supposed to sting a little, but there's a canyon-sized gap between a class that challenges your instrument and a class that just teaches you to take a beating. Showing up sick because you're scared to miss a session, pushing yourself into an actual breakdown under manufactured guilt. That's not rigor, that's conditioning. Discomfort that grows your imagination, your nerve, your truthfulness on camera, good. Keep paying for that. Discomfort whose only real lesson is tolerate the person running the room, well, that's not craft, that's compliance. And learning to comply is about the most useless thing an actor can buy. The authority a bad teacher carries into the room isn't earned. It's manufactured on purpose and for a reason. Now, you've heard the pitch, even if you didn't clock it. You're not ready yet. You're close, but not yet. Not because it's true, because not yet keeps you enrolled. It keeps you paying. Just a little more time, a little more work, and then you'll get there. But there never quite shows up, does it? Because arriving means leaving the class, and leaving the class means the checks stop. That's not a teaching philosophy, that's a retention plan. And it works for a sneaky reason. When you respect somebody's expertise, even if it is misplaced, You quietly stop trusting your own read. You hand over your judgment. So when the class stops feeling right, you don't blame the class. You've been set up to blame somebody a lot closer to home. Self-blame isn't a side effect of a bad class. It's the product. Actors almost always walk out of a bad class still believing the problem was them, not the teacher, them. They got out and they carried the teacher's voice out the door with them. That's not a coincidence. That's the thing working exactly as built. The self-doubt is the lock on the door. If you believe the failure is yours, you do one of two things. You stay and pay more, or you leave and keep quiet, because who wants to admit they spent 6 months and a couple grand on a class that didn't work, when the story in your head is that you were the one who wasn't good enough. Either way, the teacher wins and you lose. Twice. Acting classes may be the only place where the word coach means absolutely nothing. Legally, zero. Anybody can call themselves an acting teacher. Change whatever they want. Run the room however they want. No license, no credential, no oversight. And it makes you think you have no standing. Take it or leave it. Well, that's just the industry. Wrong. And this is the good news. The regulation gap cuts both ways. Oh yeah, it protects bad teachers. It also means an acting class is a business and you are the customer. You can do due diligence before you ever write a check. Audit the class. Ask who they've actually trained and what happened to those people. Watch what the work in the room really looks like. And if something feels off, you leave. No contract guilt. No, but I'm not ready. You walk in as a customer doing homework, not somebody hoping to be chosen. And believe me, I learned that the hard way. Remember that class? I'd handed over 4 classes worth of money before I ever watched the room. So even once I saw it for what it was, I sat there, prepaid, no refunds, telling myself, well, maybe that's exactly backwards. I was the customer the whole time. I just acted like one too late after I'd already paid. Well, don't make that mistake. Sample the class first. Never prepay for a room you haven't sat in. So why do we put up with it? It isn't industry wisdom passed down through the ages. It's a button being pushed. 2 things fused together. 1, the no pain, no gain belief. If it doesn't hurt, it isn't working. 2, something older and quieter. A pull toward a familiar shape. The withholding authority figure whose approval you keep reaching for. That pull isn't a flaw, it's human, but a teacher who spots it and leans into it isn't a tough mentor. They've turned your hunger to learn into their power supply. Your self-doubt becomes the lock, and the whole machine keeps humming as long as you never separate the pain from the progress. Never stop to ask whether the suffering is actually producing anything real, or whether you've just trained yourself to call suffering serious. That confusion right there is the whole thing in one sentence. Now, let me be clear about what I'm not saying. I'm not saying every demanding teacher is a fraud. The great ones will absolutely push you, and it'll be uncomfortable, and you'll thank them later. Rigor is real. Rigor is good. What I'm saying is this weird isn't a credential. Suffering isn't a syllabus, and you are not required to bleed to learn this. The reputation is marketing until proven otherwise. The discomfort that only teaches you to comply is a control mechanism, not a craft. The self-blame you carry out the door got installed on purpose, and underneath all of it, you were the paying customer the whole time. You just forgot you were allowed to act like one. Stop mistaking abuse for rigor. Start demanding teaching that actually makes you better. Hey, you want Start Where You Are for free? The link's in the description. New myths every week. See you in the next one.